Hi, I want to thank all of you for attending today's Copilot for Microsoft 365 Starter Series. Today, we're going to be talking about Copilot use cases for IT. Very excited about today. It is the conclusion of our first 8-part mini-series that we have on this particular Starter Series. Just so that you know, go ahead and bring that up. While this is the last one of that 8-part mini-series, we've had a ton of requests to continue doing this. A lot of people have found it very helpful. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. We're already planning on our next starter series. It's going to begin June 1st. So that's going to be pretty exciting. That one's already in planning. We're going to do a shorter 5. We're going to do 5-round segments moving forward. But the first 3 are already locked in, and we're settling on an additional 2. So very excited for that. I see Thomas has joined me. So Thomas, if you could you man the people and as they are coming in, go ahead and click the admit all or admit, so that I don't have to keep doing that. So thank you, Thomas, for jumping in.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So just to kind of kick off, as people are looking to get the recording from today, the resources, prompts, all of my prompts will be posted afterwards with this. You can find them at aka.ms/HLSblog. As always, aka.ms/HLSblog. Recording from this, all the demos, the deck in PDF format, and all the prompts, as well as resources, will be available there. So I know that'll be a question as we move through. Some other housekeeping, as you have questions, comments, concerns, anything, take a look at the QA panel. I'm going to go ahead and have that up here, and both myself and Thomas will be looking at that as we go through. You're able to go in there and post questions, comments, etc. Please feel free to do so. We encourage it. So that's where the place is for doing that. And then during the QA portion of today, at that point, I'll go through and start just running through from the beginning. So QA panels where to ask stuff. And with that, let's get started. So I do have a couple of slides just to kick things off before we dive into the meat of today. But today's agenda, we're going to talk about Copilot for Microsoft 365, what it is and what it isn't. And that's just as important as what it is. We're going to have then a look at, and I don't know why I forgot to invert those. We're actually going to quick talk about, since this is IT, I'm going to do a quick overview, very quick. We don't want to bleed it out. I'll have that in the resources you can go to after, but we're going to cover real quickly what Copilot for 365 is as far as technically and the security around that, because this is an IT presentation. Then I'm going to get into the demos. You can tell I'm just not a PowerPoint kind of person, but Copilot can help with that. And then we'll get into the QA and resources and next steps. So real quickly, the age of Copilots has arrived. So Copilot, as you know, is Microsoft's kind of high-level branding for enterprise AI, as well as consumer. There's a whole consumer piece, but we're not going to be addressing that. We're talking about the enterprise space. I'm in a healthcare and life sciences space, so it's really around this leveraging the power of AI in the flow of work for all kinds of things. And if you had any doubts about where Microsoft is heading with this, let them be dispelled. It will be in everything, literally everything that we are doing. We are really at the beginning and cusp of this whole journey. We went live for general availability with Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is just one of many Copilots that we're going to take a look at today. And we went live on November 1st, literally the day before my birthday. It was a happy birthday to me kind of present. So, this idea that it's going to be pervasive in everything. We've even announced Copilot for Notepad. I have no idea what it's going to do in Notepad. It's going to do something. It's in Paint. it's coming out in everything because it is really that assistant that's going to sit by. So when we talk about Copilot and how it can help and what it is for IT, think of all the repetitive, mundane tasks that you do today, right? That's what Copilot for Microsoft 365 is about. It's an assistant, just like if I had an admin, right? It is my personal admin that works at my behest. I invoke it where I want it to do things and have it help me with that kind of repetitive task, things that put a lot of overhead on me and during, my given day's work, to lessen that and to help me be more efficient, to get stuff done quicker and faster, often with less resources. And that's what it's all about. Again, we're very early in the journey, but that's what we're looking at with Copilot. What it is not, this is not autopilot. There are copilots and things that you can do and extensions and things that you can build with things like Copilot Studio, for example, if you want to have automation of AI. This is not that. This is about, in the flow of my everyday work, lessening things, and they'll become readily apparent. Also, it is not a replacement for my judgment. I have read some horror stories of people going out with ChatGPT and asking it something to generate content, dumping it in a Word doc or email, never reading through and checking on it. Everything that we do will be a draft, and I'll reiterate that as we go through over and over and over. This is not a replacement of individuals. It's an enhancement to your capabilities. And so, but as a result, just like if I had an admin and I said, hey, I need you to go research the following, write up a document that we're going to use for, let's say, a project plan, a big initiative at our company, within our hospital organization, et cetera. I still need to review it. I need to edit it and ensure the veracity, the truthfulness, that it's exactly what I'm looking for, right? Because in the end, everything that you're going to see that we produce today, it's not going to say, when I send an email, buy Microsoft Copilot, it's going to say from Mike Giannotti, right? It's going to have my name on it. And that is something we want to be very cognizant of. The content that we produce is going to have our names on it. So always think of it as a draft. How does it work real quickly? And I said I'd go quickly through the kind of the tech and things because we do things differently. And I keep running into, I was just up in Montreal speaking to a great group of executives from a large multinational company last week. And right off the bat, the one of the first questions is, why wouldn't I just go to ChatGPT and OpenAI and ask my questions, do it? Why would I use this? So first of all, unlike public-facing entities that are out there in the ether, we take the latest large language models like ChatGPT-4 or GPT-4 Turbo, DALL-E 3, et cetera, and we bring those inside of your Microsoft 365, within the Microsoft 365 service boundaries, and we lock the model. Let me say that one more time. We lock the model. For IT, this is an important thing to remember. Business doesn't think often about this, but for IT, this is huge. We will never train the models with your data, ever. That is not if you want to do training of models, we have facilities where you can set up an instance in Azure and you can train it and do custom apps and all that. That is not what we're doing with Copilot for Microsoft 365. We lock the model, then we combine it with your graph data, right? We don't munge them together, but for the information, out on ChatGPT, somebody writes a prompt and it goes out, and all the information that ChatGPT has ingested and is a part of that expanding model, you get then those answers coming back to you. We don't do that. We're not pulling from the model. We're pulling from your graph data, your actual enterprise graph data, to create the answers. So there's a couple of things that are happening there. First of all, this is all happening within the 365 boundaries, just like everything else you're doing today. Nothing new under the sun, except we're short-circuiting some of the need to go through multiple steps to find information, to go through and gather all that info and then synthesize it into a coherent answer and then output it. We're just taking a bunch of the steps. If you were to go out and search and find a bunch of stuff, and then you have to read through it all and pull out what you want, then you have to craft your answers and all that. We're taking all that and we're going, let the AI handle that part. You just get into the editing component. We'll see that as we go. And then we're doing it all through the applications you're already using, not something different. You know what? I'm producing a Word doc. I'm in Word. I don't need to go out to some separate app and do something and then bring it into Word. I'm in Word. Let's do it. I'm in, we're going to see Whiteboard. I'm in, Outlook, whatever. The applications I'm already using with one other piece that's possible. So right here, everything is just internally at my place of work, right? It's our office, it's our Microsoft Graph, that's all the information that's up there in the cloud in Microsoft, which could be email, it can be your calendars, documents, SharePoint pages, Teams, and the documents stored in the underlying SharePoint and all that stuff. All of that's there, right? So it's that environment and then surfacing through those apps, but we do provide extension. So that's why I have this little plus web here. If elected, you can enable not only web, but other things. We have two models of extension called plugins and graph connectors. Graph connectors have been around forever, and we'll leverage that. There's over 1,200 graph connectors existing today for other applications, things like ServiceNow. I know this is IT, you're probably using ServiceNow, right? So there's graph connectors for ServiceNow. There's also a plugin that I'll talk about in just a sec for that. And there's for a whole host of things. But what this allows you to do for the web one, it actually is a connector to Bing, where we set up internet-based research that you can do. And we're going to see an example. But the idea is that where you determine as an organization you want to extend and amplify the possibilities around the content that could be generated for your prompts, you can hook up additional applications to make those repositories and their resulting content available to Copilot. So it's just a way of extending it. Lastly, as I mentioned, everything stays in-house unless you reach out to the web, and we have a whole separate thing on what we do to safeguard. I'll just tell you that if you are leveraging the web portion, which would be our Bing engine, unlike other not consumer services like Bing and other search engines out there. One, we're gonna expunge that prompt out of there. Number two, we're not going to train again any information. We also de-identify you as a person. Any of that inherent information that inadvertently, always gets grabbed. We're going to de-identify you around that. And we're also going to de-identify your organization and other resultant information like IP and all that. So that's, again, I already went over. There we go. I don't want to drain that to death. You'll have the slide. I'm going to have the links to the security so you can dive into that. But at a high level, as we get into our first use case, Copilot for Microsoft 365 is an assistant, right? Think of an administrative assistant for you personally to help you get your work done. We're going to keep all of the prompting, the information, et cetera, within that Microsoft 365 service boundary. We never go out. We are not training the models with any of your prompts or data. We do things differently within this enterprise instantiation so that we meet all of your existing things around, corporate compliance, et cetera, that's there. Nothing changes. And I'll talk a little bit about this as we go through some of the demos, but nothing changes in those processes, right? We security trim results coming back. Everything stays in your organization. Nothing's getting sent out. Nothing's training models or being exposed to other tenants. Everything's staying inherently there for you and your organization. That's why it falls under your existing BAA agreement today. All right. So having said all that, let's get into the fun stuff. So we're going to look at 2 use cases, each with a number of demos. And we're going to go from this one, which is a little simpler, around product adoption. And we're going to use a particular document as kind of the main focal point for a number of activities that we're going to walk through. And then the second one for IT administrators is going to get a little more complex, and we're going to do some other things. And again, I'm going to take a lot of prompts. I'm going to be posting those up. I actually have them in a notepad. I always keep for different demos. I organize in Notepad my different prompts and have those available. Those will all be on the website, so you'll have access to them. So you can take and change them up and use them as you want. And again, as we go through, if you have questions, leverage not chat, that's disabled, QA, right? The Q&A panel will let you ask questions. And so to give you the full real estate here for the demos, I'm going to come off of video, and we're just going to give full real estate to our demo here. And where's my mouse? There it is. There. So now you should be seeing just my screen. And you can see here what we're starting with. The first is driving product adoption with Copilot. So we've all been, as IT folks, involved in adoption, implementation, rollouts of new services or software or hardware, et cetera, and all the things that go on around that. And so here we have a sequence of things that we're going to do as a part of that. This is, again, just to give you a teaser around this, but the uses should start to become readily apparent how you can similarly do that. So the first of which is we're going to summarize a project plan. We're going to get a large document. I actually grabbed one, a large project plan that we're going to go ahead and look at. And if you're like me, you've probably get all kinds of documents sent your way that are very large in nature. And that you want to get a quick sense of without having to read through War and Peace. So we're going to take a look at how to grab a summary of that. We're then going to take that summary and actually build out a visualization for a meeting right within a whiteboard. And then from there, we're going to go into looking at an actual meeting and around our project effort and pulling back information, et cetera. We're going to look at then drafting an email based upon our contents and our project plan that we can send out to the organization. And so we can announce to them what's happening, what's coming their way, and kind of lay it out so everybody gets that. Then we're going to create an executive update. So we need to present this project plan back to our chief executives around this new initiative. And so we're going to be able to create a PowerPoint to present for that. And then we're going to do a quick revision of things. And like I said, this is the simpler of the 2 use cases that we're going to handle today. But we're going to go ahead and we will get started. All right. So, and I see we have our first question comment. That'll be during QA, but awesome. Keep them coming. All right, so let me get out of here. And I am going to bring up, for the first thing, a document, like I mentioned. So here I found internally, this is actually a Contoso demo document, but it's 33 pages. Power BI adoption plan. And I forget when it was developed, but I grabbed this document, I tossed it into my OneDrive. And if you're like me, you get this kind of stuff and you're like, I don't have time for this, to read all this, but it's important that I do. So I at least get an understanding of what's in here. So Copilot, again, in the flow of work is here for me. So Copilot's been enabled in my org. And right here I'm in Word, right? And this works both in, by the way, everything I'll show you today will work both in the client and in the web version. But I'm here and I'm going to go ahead and select Copilot. It's going to open on up, and it's actually then going to pull up some, there we go, some initial suggestions, and it says I can chat, respond to your questions, help you with writing and summarizing this document. I can click summarize, ask a question. There's some additional things. Are there calls to action? But I want to also call your attention to a couple things. Number one, I can just free type whatever I want to ask it. It uses natural language query. Now, having said that, and I'll have a link to all about prompt engineering. There's 4 basic elements you want to follow to get a better answer. The quality of the prompt is going to assist with the quality of the response. It really is a new skill set. I don't want to sugarcoat that. I've had people just throw things out there and then they didn't tell me what I want. And then I said, well, what are you asking it? We reword it and boom, all of a sudden they're doing a happy dance. So right in here, I can go ahead, I can free type. We also have here manage search and plugins, right? So I'm just going to select that real quick. You can see here, my organization has enabled the web content plugin. So the plugins allow me to do a real-time query of a particular source. Could be ServiceNow. Show me my tickets, right? For the last 36, 48 hours, whatever it is. And resolutions or whatever, or task action items. But we can go ahead and do that. Here I have the web plugin available. That means it'll allow me to also search the internet if desired. I'm going to go ahead and close that. We have a microphone accessibility. You're going to see this in a number of the UIs, not all of them, but in a number of them, we'll see that is available. And then finally, we have view prompts. And so I'm going to select that. And here you can see it has a couple of prompts: summarize, list the pros and cons, important deadlines, etc. I'm going to go back. There's also ask, and it says view more prompts. Always look for this. Keep this in mind as you're going through. We want to help you get a jump start, and we continue to build on these prompts. And you can also save prompts, right? Have those right off the bat. But it has here additional things to help you get jump started, like get formatting feedback. Who's who? Who are the key stakeholders for this project? Help me understand things. There's, a range of activities to help you get your work done quicker. But for this, we just want to summarize. So I'm going to select that. Again, I love having a lot of these just at my fingertips. You'll see that when it finishes summarizing, it's going to then suggest follow-up prompts so I could further iterate on the work that I'm doing here, right? But it's going ahead, it's looking through this in real time, this document, and it's scanning through, and it's starting to generate bullet points around this. And you can see it says almost there. I think that's a little bit of encouragement to keep you tuned in. And so we're still going, and you can see it's highlighting, bolding kind of the title of each bullet, and then giving subsequent information. Once it finishes, it also then gives little numbers here, right? So it shows you where in the document it derived this particular point from. So you can get a sense as you go through where are things coming from and look at that. I also can look at all the references right down below. It's going to list those out. And then I can further, blow those out and see those individually if so desired. It also lastly gives me the ability to copy that information. So very quickly, I'm able to come in. Now, was that instantaneous? No, it was not. And don't think it is going to be. But think about reading a 33-page document to get the main ideas that we have presented right here, right? So it is much quicker. Meantime, I could have been typing an email, doing something else, talking over my cubicle to a colleague, sipping my coffee, right? So it's helped me to get a basic understanding of this much quicker than previously. And then, like I mentioned, notice it already is helping me iterate. make the summary more casual, include more details, right? I could say make it more formal. Whatever that is, it not only gives those suggestions here, again, I can go in and free type and continue to iterate on this whole summarization process. I could also ask it questions, different things that, about different areas, maybe this data sources and data management. Give me a detailed outline of the data sources and the data management strategies in the document, whatever. But it's helped me get a quick jump start on my way. And then I said, after we've done this, I'm getting a quick ideas around it. I'm getting ready for a meeting. I want to get a little further prepared. And so during my meetings, I like to share whiteboards. So maybe I can come in and do this. I'm going to go ahead and copy to the clipboard. I'm going to open up Microsoft Whiteboard in this case. And here in Whiteboard, one of the new icons, because we have Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is lighting up everywhere, is Copilot. So I'm going to select that, and it gives me two things right off the bat on this blank one. You notice there's some grayed out ones if we already had content. One is suggest ideas and content. The other is visualize ideas and content as images. This leverages Microsoft's new capacity using Microsoft Designer for image generation, right? So we could leverage that, but I'm going to say suggest, and I'm going to get a very familiar UI of the Copilot box, and we'll see more of this as we go. And I'm actually going to paste that particular piece in. And so it's now looking at my content, my summarization, and it says, hey, here's a summary of the document, main ideas. And so it's grabbed all that. And if I say insert, boom, just like that, we have that. And then again, we can continue to add content. But very quickly now, if I want a visual, not just some text, so when we kick off our meeting, and then we're going to start to draw and capture notes and let people write back and forth. I've already got something here laid out very quickly for me to start to use in that particular context. That's with Whiteboard, just a very quick example. And again, I'll have a link where you can get more ideas of how to leverage Whiteboard for what you're doing in this. The next piece, though, is a meeting, right? So, I've summarized, got a summarization of this project plan. I've got this laid out so we can start our meeting and have some, a baseline to visualize and get people talking. But next, what I want to do is have a meeting. And then if you're like me, you're probably in meeting hell. I am in meeting hell. That's all I can say. I get double booked. I get overlapping meetings of multiple things. And Copilot for Microsoft 365, bar none, this is the #1 use we've seen of it. And I can tell you, I use multiple times on a daily basis. In fact, I've already used it today where I had 2 overlapping meetings, where I can go either in real time during a meeting where I join it late or after the fact and query it. And so for that, we're going to open up. This one is a little different. I just grabbed something that we did as a demo because I can't show you real meetings I have internally. I get in trouble. But I want to kind of walk through. And as I mentioned, there's both real time and after the fact. So let's say I got double booked and I couldn't attend the project kickoff meeting where we're going to talk about this whole adoption. I could come in after the fact and I could see not only the recording, but who has time to watch the entire recording. If it's an hour meeting, nobody's going to watch a whole hour, but I can do a couple of things right off the bat. Number one, it identifies for me the individual speakers when they spoke, and I can click on that, and I can see also how long relative on the timeline. So I can go to Sue, to Pete, different things that individuals are talking about. And I can do that based upon the speaker. Maybe I only cared about something. And actually, I just this morning had a meeting talking about Copilot and some other things around data visualizations for usage. And I said there was a meeting on Friday. They were going back in to see who had spoke about what, which, while it's not an individual, it may be a topic, right? So it also identifies the topics of different things discussed. Here, they did it for our demo. They did an intro and a dad joke, Project Falcon launch, marketing and research readiness, and it allows you to skip around in all of that. We also have here some AI notes, any attachments, but we also have the Copilot icon above. And I love this because this is where I can start to ask it things about, and you can see we've asked this one a lot. We keep using it for demos, but I can ask it questions in the meeting. So let's say I'm 30 minutes late, right? I could ask it by clicking prompt. I could type it myself. Right now it's saying recap the meeting because it's already happened. Contextually, it knows if the meeting is live. And so I could actually ask it during the meeting, recap the meeting so far. It'll actually have that here in the text itself. It'll also say so far because recognizes it's a meeting in progress. So we have here a whole bunch of things. And again, it will continue to iterate, but I could say, hey, go ahead, recap the meeting for me. It's going to go through, and if it's live, let's say I tuned in 30 minutes late, it's going to look at the transcript right up to this point in time and provide me that information right then and there, right, as to what's went on. Here it's looking at the entire meeting and it's going to recap it. And for all of this, it's important to note as IT, it is leveraging the power of the transcript, not the video itself, but the transcript for the video. So here we had the recording, which automatically infers transcription. And then you can see it has different points. It tells you who said what and where in the timeline. And I can go ahead and select those. It then also has follow-up actions, like list all the action items and others that it's suggesting. And of course, I could continue to ask it things. One other thing here, this is a meeting. So we might have hooks into other systems, like I mentioned earlier. We saw the web plugin as well. Here's that little icon. It's going to show me under the plugins things that are available. Here it has Copilot for sales. So my CRM data, because perhaps you want to make that available so people can pull right up CRM data on the fly, or it could be ServiceNow or something from HR. Whatever the case is, we make that available. But here you can see now we have the various action items for after the fact, but I can also free type. So maybe I'll say recap, or no, let's say summarize what Sue Venzel, and Sue is a compatriot of mine. And I'm just trying to remember, I think it's 1L. Let's quick hit that. It's 2. There we go. I'll leave it 1. Let's see if it's able to pick that up. So I want to know what just Sue said. I don't want to watch it. Just tell me. I want to grab that quick. So again, this meeting now, you have this project kickoff. We're quickly able to go in, get a recap of it because we didn't attend or we tuned in late. We can get the action items that came out. We can query it for what people said, get all that stuff done on the fly, right? So here we are, and there we go. Sue Venzel is the integrated marketing lead and facilitator of the meeting. She led the discussion, timing, etc. And I could say, give them more detail, but it also gave them links to the individual things that she mentioned. Beautiful. So meetings, it's now helped me with as well. So if you're in IT and you're in meeting hell, I can tell you the angst I used to have around I'm missing meeting is no longer there because I don't have to bug people for it. I don't have to find out, I still can get to that. Now, somebody did ask a question I'm going to answer in line real quick. Actually, I'll answer 2 of them, because this is important and it is the number one thing that people start right off the bat using, meetings. What if recording transcription is not turned on by anyone in the meeting? If you don't have that turned on, it's not going to capture it. That's an important point. I can tell you that gets into part of adoption and user education. Just as an example, I run a couple of national virtual teams, and one of my meetings is every other Friday. And I'm just like everybody else. I'm like all of you. Something new, we struggle to get in the rhythm, right? We're having to learn and build new muscle around technology. I kept forgetting to turn it on, and somebody would remind me during, but you'd miss part of the meeting. Finally, I woke up and said, what am I doing? It's a recurring meeting. I have it so it automatically turns on, right? Just comes on. We capture it all. It's there. If your organization prohibits recording and transcription, which some hospitals do, it's not in violation of compliance. It's the organization's interpretation of some of the laws around that, because I can tell you, I cover 315 healthcare and life sciences accounts nationwide, and not everybody agrees on all that. So it changes. But let's say your org does. You can set it up so that it will do transcription under the hood in something called Cosmos DB that you don't see, and then it gets purged the second the meeting is ended and everybody's out. But what that does afford you, so there's no artifacts moving forward. What that does afford you, though, for the organizer, et cetera, is before they stop the meeting, right? All they have to do is query Copilot and say, hey, recap the meeting, list out the action items, boom. Because that's what we do after all our meetings internal, right? We, instead of having people worrying about taking notes and getting their point of view or this person's point of view and what they were able to keep up with, it captures all of that. We do the recaps. We then just copy, send those out in a follow-up note or in a Teams message so that everybody gets them, and you can do that. And no, not everybody has to have Copilot for this to work. It needs to be the people whoever has it will have this feature lit up for them. The others obviously will not see it. So, all right, that's for the meeting. Once we've done the meeting, now what I want to do is, I'm looking at, hey, I want to start to do, I have some additional tasks that I need to get done as a part of this. And so, I've got a number of things going on. It's not all just about the Power BI. So I'm going to go ahead, minimize these. And what I would like to do is to look at reviewing our Azure, some of our Azure AD. Am I in the right one here? Nope, that's the wrong one. Here we go. I want to look at a couple of things here where I'm going to go ahead and I want to now draft an email to the org based upon this doc. So again, like me, if you're like me between emails and meetings, sometimes you're like, what is going on? So I'm going to go ahead and drag over to you. I need to say new email. Let's blow that out and bring it over. Here we go. So I've opened up, here's a new email in Outlook. And I want to now draft an email. We did edits to that document, that project plan. I want to send out a summarization of this to the org. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to prepare a presentation for our senior execs so they understand what's happening, all based off of this. So I'm going to come in. Notice it says type 2, draft with Copilot. So I can click that just to get started. I can also do the / like it has here. And right within the flow of work, we always have Copilot right here in the taskbar. So I could draft Copilot or get coaching on writing, right? So I'm just going to say draft with Copilot. And now I wanted to do an email. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to explain my prompt. So here's my prompt. I will change the address to stuff. You wouldn't be able to get to it anyways. But just so people are not confused, I'll say, put your URL in here. So what I did was I took the email or the address to that particular doc, right? So if you came up here and you were to say share, right, and get the link, copy the link, this is the link that would be there. And I wrote, summarize the information in /. That's something that you want to keep in your back pockets, everybody. /. When you want to reference an individual document for use in the content that you're producing, not your entire graph, but just one doc, put /, then put the URL to that, and it'll allow you to call that document for your information. And then I said, what are the next steps for Power BI deployment? So we're going to generate that in 1 second. I do have some options that I can select here. So I'm going to select those just to show you. Last week at my Montreal visit with a large company, they asked me to make something a poem. We're not going to do that today. I think this is brought to you by the same folks who put Klingon language packs, Klingon language in the language packs. But what we do have is direct, neutral, casual, and formal. So I'm going to say, let's make it formal. This is an official email we're going to put out. We have length, short, medium, and long. Keep in mind, it's contextual to the application. It knows we're not writing War and Peace, so it's going to keep it to that. And then I'm going to go ahead and select Generate. Now, Copilot is going to go out to that document, that project plan around that 33-page document, and it's going to create an email telling people about this piece, right? It's going to tell them about the plans for adoption. It's going to provide some details around that. And it's creating that particular draft here. And I can see it's getting close. So again, is it instantaneous? No. There's huge investments taking place on expansion of Microsoft's data center capacity. So here we go. And so I'm writing to you for a summary of this. Now, there's a couple of things. First of all, it's going to allow me to iterate on this. And I'm going to blow this up so you can see it in a minute. But number one, I could regenerate. I can also iterate anything you'd like to change, right? That's there. There's also a warning that comes up. AI-generated content may be incorrect. It can only be as correct as the information you have in the graph, right? If there's documents out there that are faulty and it pulls from them, you know, garbage in, garbage out, good in, good out. So keep that in mind. That's why we always think of it as a draft. I'm going to select keep it, and I'm going to go ahead and expand this so that we can easily read it. There we go. And you can say what it's done. I'm writing to you to share with you a summary of the information I've gathered from the Power BI deployment doc. I don't quite like that, so I'd probably rewrite that. The document outlines the following key points. The next steps for deployment are. Hope this helps you understand the main aspects. And there you go. If I didn't like that, I could say regenerate very quickly and easily, and it'll give me a whole different response. So we have a number of options, but very quickly it got me running on an email, again, without having to spend the next half hour trying to figure out what it is I want to write out here. Time savings. So we've drafted this email. Now we want to go in and prepare a presentation for our executives. So I'm going to say I want a new PowerPoint. We'll drag that over here. And the first thing I'm going to do is pick a particular template. Yes, you can use templates. So I'm using a generic hospital one here. You can use whatever your organization provides. But what I want to do now is, based upon that document, create a presentation. So I'm going to come in here, notice suggestions, create a presentation about. I can free type and it'll go out and find information and generate a doc. But I want to do it based off of a file. And so here it says create a presentation from file, and it already has the /, right? So I'm going to come here, and I could then from here create, you know, and give it the address, or there's a couple of ways that I'm able to do that here. I could start to type, you know, the name of it, and I could say, you know, maybe Power And there are the demo gods. They're not working with me today. There's a preview that should be popping up. But we're going to go ahead and just paste that particular address to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and send. So now it's going to do a couple of things. It's looking out for that particular document. And it's going to start to, but it's going to say, hey, whoa, you got a template here with existing slides. Those, it says, we're going to replace those. Do you want to do that? Yes. So now it's going to continue analyzing the document. It's then going to build out a bulleted list of topics that are going to correspond to slides. And here we go. You can see it's starting, right? So it's going to do that. It's going to then add contents for those slides, including images, right? That are appropriate for the particular slides. If the document itself had images in them, it would use those wherever they were available. If not, it'll use our royalty-free image library. It's also not only going to do that, but do the layout for the slides, and it's going to go furthermore and build slide notes for each individual slide. Now you can see it's actually generating those slides. It's going to quick look those over in just a second. And we're almost there. Again, think of the amount of time to create, based off of a 33-page project plan, a slide deck that would allow you to present that. Think about the case I had not too long ago, a physician who had just published an article. We copy and pasted it from his online version into Word, dropped it into my OneDrive, and then I leveraged this feature to create a presentation on that piece. You can see here it's gone ahead, and let's get to some actual contents. Introduction, purpose of the plan, current state of BI, and here you can see the slide notes for each slide, along with the original content that it used to generate those. So it's now created a 31-page slide deck for me using our template, the colors, etc. It's created the content, laid it out, and generated the slides. And then finally, I could even come in and I could say, organize it. If I don't know quite what because I want to have the sections and section slides, I can come in here and see it says organize your thoughts. So I could select that, boom, and now it's organizing them into sections. And we're gonna continue on just for time's sake, but you can see how it's quickly going ahead and doing that right in here. Then finally, I could go back. I was gonna do a demo going back into the original doc and use a Copilot to make a change, and I'll quickly do that. So show you where we would do that. Let's say I went all the way to the end and I wanted to write a paragraph about how all this is subject to change. I could come in and notice this, wherever my cursor is in Word, the Copilot icon allows me to quickly pull up and draft iterative content as we develop. So that's going. Let's come on back quickly to here, to our, there we go. So it created, here are the various sections. It's now created sectional slides for each of those. And there, this one is now added about it being subject to change, right? A little paragraph. So whole bunch of work we did quickly on the fly. It's all about saving time, right? All right, so before we address the next piece, I do have some questions I want to try to quickly get to. What languages are supporting? Does Copilot work with languages not directly supported by the transcription service? So if people are speaking in languages not part of the transcription service, then it will not be able to capture those if they're using something that's not there. It is for the meetings dependent upon that transcription service. So look at that. The languages are constantly changing. Eventually it will reach the entire language pack, but I can tell you I've done things like gone in and I told Word, draft a document and around I gave a topic, and then I said, and make it in French or Spanish, and it spit out that language of that particular piece. So that can be done as well. What happens? The media is multilingual. People are switching languages on the FYI. Well, we should be capturing all that in the transcript, right? And then that's all queryable. It depends, again, on the language packs and supportability. Can you? Yeah, I can't show you how it would work. I have in my next quick demo, I can show you the web plugin, how that works. I don't have access to ServiceNow, so I can't do that. I would ask your ServiceNow people, what if the recording transcription was not turned on by any, oh, we already talked about that. I tried a prompt to provide a summary for important emails, require my input. I noticed Copilot missed the important email in the summary that was provided. How can this be improved, resolved? Well, one, it continues to learn as you go forward, so there's always that. Also, you call things out, right? If you know, if you have an awareness of things that you want it to provide for, you got to be explicit. The more explicit you are in your prompt, the better a job it's going to do. If you give it a very brief, hey, give me all the important this and that, and that's it, not include examples of projects and this and things of that nature, you'll get back a more worthwhile response. Otherwise, it'll be more brief. So that's one thing, but also as you go through and iterate, it's continuing to learn and see where you're making changes after the fact. Being an older document, and the fact that you are web enabled here, can you ask if there's a later version of this document available on the web? No, not at this time. Will that be coming? Maybe. But yeah, it's not going to, at this time, you're not going to do that. However, it does understand versioning if you're using the versioning inherent 365. In a similar session, I asked the question, can I ask Copilot to search for information for business based on a list in Excel? So I'm going to tell you a little bit differently. So first of all the graph information is available. I will tell you that Excel-focused content is the most limited in what it brings back. So if you're looking to query an Excel document directly and say, hey, give me, I like from this document, tell me about the following, it's not there yet. That's on a roadmap, but it is not. So I would say that the Excel portion is really for the non-power user. All right, looks like I've caught up. So that was our first P1. I know we're running low on time, but I did want to get to some of these because I think they give you some really good examples of some additional Ps. So going back on the email, I'm going to give you, this is a prompt that I use. So I'm going to just do a couple of these quick. I'm not going to do them all here. We're going to do the one around messages and important things. Then we're going to do something with forms, and we'll see what else we have time for. But those two, I think, are pretty important. And there's stuff that I use on a regular basis. So let me get out of here. And I am going to open up that chat portion of Copilot right here, where you can ask it to do all kinds of things. This continues to expand and get much more and more robust. And what we're going to first ask, though, is this. I love this one. This is a prompt I use every Monday when I start my week. And it asks, and this gets into, this has the 4 elements. Again, I'll have that in the resources after, so you can find it in the post. But and I'll also have this prompt. You can use it at your own and start to play around with it. Summarize my mails, Teams messages, and channel messages from the last work week. List action items in a dedicated column. Suggest follow-ups, if possible, to a dedicated column. The table should look like this. And then I have the format. So you can see I'm not only telling it what I want, but I'm being very explicit in how I want it to present it to me. So I'm going to come here, select send, and while that's formatting, brings me to a point. And I'm going to show you something that'll help you with all this. In fact, I'm going to cut it right after. I've got the other thing I'll start off as well. And then I want to show you. In fact, I'm just going to bring it up because I don't want to wait. While that's building out, let me bring my deck here. You'll have a link to this. If you haven't done this, there is something called Prompt Buddy. It is open sourced out there on GitHub. It's by Eric Olson and Student Rideout. I use this. It is flipping awesome because it crosses all of the Copilot. So if I go over here, let me drag. I'm going to quickly, I want to show you this because this is one of the most useful things you'll have. Let me drag my Teams instance over here. Everything, by the way, I've been doing is in production instance, no up my sleeves. Here's Prompt Buddy. So Prompt Buddy lets me go by app, right? So I can say, hey, I want to look at Microsoft 365. I'm needing help with prompts. And we're building, this is these libraries. You can stand this up in your organization, allow people to submit a prompt, and start keeping a repository of reusable prompts, right, that are available. This is available for customers as well as Microsoft employees. And it's something that you stand up in your organization. They can have it in Teams. They can have it via the web. But it allows you to go in and do things like goals and actions, create a table, etc. So great thing to have. I also keep a OneNote of reusable prompts. But if we come on back here to this particular piece, there we go. Remember I asked it about last week for some of the important things, and then it's given me references around that so I can readily see, what the project, this one, new project proposal, received an email from my manager, Tavis, action item, reply with comments and suggestions, and then finally a follow-up and a link to that particular piece. I use this every Monday. Also, see, it has follow-ups. Find the email. Tell me more about Copilot use cases. What are upcoming meetings? All that starts to become available. One last demo, and then I'm going to take any last questions. All right, and this one is one of my favorites. So I'm going to come over here. And this is a scenario where if you are not surveying your team, if you're a manager, I manage 2 virtual teams, you should be surveying people. And the surveying capability of Microsoft Forms, which everybody owns, is pretty phenomenal. So if I come in here and say, I want a new form, just on the fly, let's go ahead. And I'm going to say, I'd like to create a survey for a group of IT professionals to better understand their day-to-day experiences as IT professionals, communicating with colleagues, finding appropriate information for their research, completing their professional training and education. All things we struggle on, all of us, right? We're all overworked in IT. Generate. I want to get a pulse of my employees, of my folks. And although Viva has great stuff, maybe we haven't bought it yet as an org. So it's going through, it's building out that survey for me. I'm going to say keep it. It's going to then further build that out. And then finally, it's going to ask me about some themes. So I can pick a, there we go. That's a pretty theme. Say keep it. And I now have, here we go, understanding IT professionals data. It took that whole lengthy piece, turned it into kind of a about this survey. What is your current job title? What are primaries of expertise? Level of education, because there's different folks, right? That we're pulling from. Primary methods of communication, primary ways of doing research, primary ways of completing your professional ed, things around stress, etc. It's built out a very robust and fully editable survey for me on the fly to be able to go and ask questions. And again, that's just another thing that's there for you as you look to all the applications and the activities that you're following. I know we ran out of time, and I'm supposed to be in another meeting with a bunch of nurses across the country right now. So I'm going to have to get going. But are there any last questions? Happy to take any one or two. As I mentioned, the deck with everything, including the resources and links, will be on aka.ms/HLS blog. That's aka.ms/HLS blog. You'll be able to get to all that there. I'll have all the resources of the slide deck as a PDF attachment, and the recording will be there so you can walk through. And all my prompts will be there where you can just copy and paste them, including for the ones I didn't even get to demos. But any last questions? I see somebody posted something. Let's see. That was great. Hey, well, thank you for attending. And I do want to thank everybody. I know we had a big confusion last week, so thank you for coming on back. I do appreciate it. Where do I find Prompt Buddy? That's going to be one of the links off the site, but I did have it here as well, aka.ms/getpromptbuddy, aka.ms/. In fact, let me do this. Here you go. Let me add that. It's going right here. There's that. And then let me also put the link, https://aka.ms/HLS blog. And this is where the recording with everything else, where that will be. In case you don't have that, you can get to it from there. And as you can see, I have a whole bunch of resources that I'll be providing, as well as everything else I mentioned. But that's it. I got to wrap. I have like 100 nurses from across the country waiting for me, and I got to get going. But thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas, for handling the people admitting them. That was a huge help.
All right. Great job. Good job, Michael.
Have a great day, everybody. Take care.